Hey everyone, Dan here. Before we get into it, if you enjoy these videos, please hit the like and subscribe button. It helps a lot. And also keep in mind, these are my own thoughts, opinions, and ideas. These are not meant to be, nor should you take them as investment or trading advice in any way, shape, or form. Do your own due diligence, put in the work for yourself, and make your decisions based on that. Enjoy. All right, folks, here we are after market close on Thursday, January 27th. I wanted to take a look at the market and sort of give an update on where things stand from the videos that we put out earlier in the week. So we're going to go through SPY, QQQ, IWM, and UVXY again, just to break down where each is and where we might be seeing some bounces or some interesting levels play out. So just to recap, SPY has been in this channel since about April of 2020, fell out last week, obviously continues to be out this week, but it's responding nicely to these two purple bounce zones that we had put in last, I don't know how many days ago the video was, maybe Sunday night or Monday night, but several days ago, put in these bounce zones. It's holding nicely between those at the moment, so we'll see how that continues to play out. This is a pretty indecisive candle. If this sort of closes in a similar fashion tomorrow, which I would expect, it probably wouldn't have a huge enough up day to have it be really top heavy, and probably not a huge enough down day to have it be really bottom heavy. If it had to be one or the other of those things, I would anticipate maybe bottom heavy, but that's just because I always anticipate that it stares up an elevator down, right? That the drops just can happen much more severely than the run-ups. Not always the case, but that's just my sort of speculation. But if it turns out to be relatively symmetrical like this, to me I would look at that as a relatively indecisive candle, and sort of being indecisive in a logical spot because there's these bounce zones while it's trying to recover from falling out of a long-term bullish pattern, and that obviously puts it in a relatively indecisive place. So in that case, my mode would be to just sort of see what it does the following, what develops. When we get in situations like this, I tend to just sort of like chart some zones like we have here, see what it does on those zones, and then depending on that, see what it does in the next, the next period of time, be that the daily or the weekly or whatever. And so nice to see that it's responding logically to these zones for the time being. On the QQQ, very similar situation. So a slightly larger body here. There's been a little bit more volatility there this week, but still is relatively symmetrical, right? So still a relatively indecisive candle. This overall looks very similar, and still situating itself at or in between these two bounce zones as well. So SPY and QQQ in pretty similar situations there. Now on the IWM, let's zoom out on this a little bit just so we can get the lay of the land again. So there was this big run up, right, that started in like April of 2020. Ring a bell. That's the channel from SPY. And then it spent basically the entire year 2021 in this range, right? It had a brief dalliance outside of it, and then returned back. And at this point, it fell out last week. So similar, even though it's a different pattern, it's falling out of the previous range that it was in. And now this week is putting in a very bottom heavy candle. So if this continues to play out, I'd look for it to still try to catch support, right? The thing is, it's trying to catch support at this like 190 level. And so if it can do that, then it may be able to base there and sort of build off of some strength or consolidate there and accumulate some future bullish potential. But otherwise, if it continues to make moves, to actually move and not just consolidates, it's looking like it's in a pretty bearish sort of structure at the moment, based on this candle and the positioning below the range that it was previously in. So we'll see, and it's at this level with increasing volume that you see it on here, right? So that volume clearly drawing down, that's selling volume coming in. So that's IWM, and UVXY, as you can imagine, would be relatively inverse of these. We can pop this one out to the daily. It's a little bit easier to look at. So let me just sort of reconfigure here. So we have this long-term resistance. Now this is coming from the weekly, but you can sort of get the sense of it here on the daily still. These are some intraday levels that I had plotted, and
UVXY continuing to do its thing and had this big run up from 11, topped out over 20, sort of respecting this resistance level, and drew down, and now it's kind of between last week and this week, kind of flat, but slightly green. So interested to see what it's going to do here, and making some higher lows and higher highs here per the wicks of these candles, and the bodies of the candles, actually. If that continues to hold tomorrow, it could signal that there's some more uplift, some more strength on UVXY or the VIX to be played out next week or in the coming weeks. So that's where it looks, still looking, quite volatile to me. Like we said, UVXY there, IWM at the moment looking relatively bearish. QQQ and SPY, while they are trying to bounce in these zones, are putting in relatively indecisive candle structures for the week at the moment. This could certainly change tomorrow, but that's where we stand going into tomorrow, as far as I see it. All right, folks, I hope that you're hanging in there well this week, and as always, I appreciate you watching. I will see you in the next video.